Space Marine 2 is a lot of fun if you're looking for some mindless hack and slash gameplay. That's probably the best way to describe it without making it appear too complicated, which it isn't. If you like the idea of playing through a short story campaign and focusing the rest of your time with friends either through the online PvP modes, or just to repeatedly play through these side mission campaigns, with the main objective being to crush the vile heretics beneath your righteous grasp while having a lot of fun doing so, then that's all there really is needed to be said here. Though there definitely is need for some polish and balancing, it's definitely a fun game to play through a couple of times, though I don't see much longevity in the PvP aspect. If you haven't played Space Marine 1 or you are unfamiliar with the story as I was, you find yourself following Titus after his imprisonment due to the false accusation that he was a heretic after many years being reassigned to his new post as a Black Shield due to the shame of no longer having the honor of calling himself an Ultramarine. Joining the Death Watch to fend off the Tyranids during a suicide mission in which his entire squad was wiped out, he was fatally injured by a Carnifex. This is where his story should end, but he is saved at the very last moment thanks to the Rubicon Primaris surgery due to the ties of a few brothers. Afterwards, his title is finally restored as an Ultramarine, as he starts his grueling mission to stop Imra, who is trying to awaken a new ancient relic left behind by the Necrons in order to attain its great power. But with the support of Augustus Calgar and his brothers, Titus intends to put an end to this quest. Nobody likes Epic Online services, and there are many other things out there that are equally despised by a large portion of the gaming community. This is not a live service game. Even if EOS goes down, as it frequently does, it has no effect on anything besides the online portion of the game, and I am in agreement that it would have been better to have a better choice. It is simply another unwanted feature added to many games. Additionally, the connections to their servers is absolute shit. You'll be lucky to find a game where you have a stable ping and not 160 to 250 while also taking sometimes 2 minutes or more to get into the lobby. Not even the game, just the waiting lobby. If you're playing this game alone, at least for the campaign, playing on higher difficulties isn't really fun because the enemies will only ever target you, never missing, never really targeting the bots on your team on any difficulty because the bots are pretty stupid on both sides as they won't really move towards you or shoot each other, but just stand there and have a conversation. They really don't try to help you outside of reviving you, and sometimes they don't even use executions unless you're hiding behind a lot of cover and don't aggro the mobs first. It's okay, but it's definitely designed with co-op gameplay in mind as they focus on actual players. This sucks because there is only co-op mode for the single player operations, not the actual campaign itself, unless you do have some friends that can tag along from the very beginning. Because if you do try to play on the highest difficulty, it's not going to be fun, it's going to be more of a chore, and the lower levels you don't need the boss to help you at all. Not to mention how easy the highest difficulty is due to the constant checkpoints that make it just push forward, die, revive, instead of being a genuine challenge, especially when the final boss bugged out a few times after reviving. The campaign itself is divided into portions. The standard game provides about 8 to 10 hours of action unless you're somebody trying to speedrun the game to be the first to post content about it on YouTube or whatever. Then it's about 5 to 6 hours on baby mode. You can go online with your buddies and other players to take on all the side missions and bosses that you did not encounter during the main campaign at any time. These missions will add about another 6 to 7 hours of story gameplay. And if you don't want to do them online, you can definitely take the AI with you, but again, you're going to run into problems because it's not designed well. The bots are not capable of doing complex tasks. All of these operations are through the Space Marines who handle the different section of a split operation that you were in contact with through the main story. Things like having to deliver a vital message while others fought off the hive leader nearby to put an end to the Tyranids horde so that you could get close enough to do so. So on average, you're looking at 15 to 17 hours or more of campaign mode to go through alone with your friends, which isn't all that bad since it can be repeated for online progression. The more online game types that you play, the more gear you will be able to acquire for each class in terms of visual alterations and weapon upgrades, alongside more perks to get some more specific types of bonuses. You unlock a lot of things through levels, but you must also buy them specifically with earned armory datas and mastery points, which may be obtained by just playing the game on lower and harder threat levels in operations and online PvP. Aside from the weapons, everything is primarily just an aesthetic addition to your characters. So I'm personally not a big fan of PvP, so my opinion should be considered at least a little bit biased. The gameplay is okay, but spawn camping in all modes is a little tedious because everyone shares one of each spawn until there is enough people to cover more of one side. So let's just suppose that they cover the middle of the map, which you cannot see because there is no map. Then you abruptly back up out of that position only to be flanked by the enemy spawning in your area which you just left when you were trying to recover your shield or to reposition. It just appears that the game will spawn everyone currently dead on top of the enemy spawn for a moment, resulting in a lot of sudden mayhem that just feels unfun because the maps are so damn small, which can definitely be abused for this tactic. It's your everyday team deathmatch, security objective style gameplay, with each team having a set group of classes, all of which let you cover a wide range of abilities and roles. Though each class can fend for themselves, they obviously have their weaknesses. It just feels a bit thrown together, like they plan on making more improvements throughout the next few months with new classes, bigger maps, and better balancing. Melee just felt completely useless compared to ranged weapons. I get that it's good for close quarter fighting against shields, but I never really saw many people utilizing it too often, as you can just gun them down unless they do get the drop on you. PvP seems to obviously be their major focal point, but it doesn't feel that enjoyable to play. We all have our own opinions, and I was perfectly fine playing through the campaign and operations because they were so much more cinematic and fun, as you watched a huge horde of Tyranids swarm around you from every angle. If If we're going to speak about the price alone, it's definitely not something that I would pay full price for if you plan on just sticking it out for the story campaign and the operations. The vibe this game puts off could be best described as exciting and mindless. By that I simply mean that it really is a spectacular and gruesome time. You really do get a sense of the Marines' rage and joy as they rip and tear apart their arch-nemesis with visceral executions. While it does feel a bit repetitive, the fun factor alone helps balance that out because you do get a visual show out of the whole ordeal. That doesn't mean that the campaign was perfect, as it definitely feels or felt a little bit bland if you did sit down to think about it for a while to help stimulate that ultramarine mentality. It is still just a hack and slasher with some story sprinkled in that is relatively good. There was a lot of usage of cinematic sequences, slowed down walking scenes, and some that were simply pre-rendered scenes, but it doesn't matter because the game is still a lot of fun, giving you some moments to take in the scenery and the world around you before getting you back into the action. Space Marine 2 is really good at holding your attention as a hack and slash co-op game that you're more or less meant to play with others. The solo experience could definitely been a little bit more polished during the solo and co-op campaign. It does feel a little bit bland, that is the story and progression, since each mission is about an hour long if you did play on Angel of Death difficulty all the way through and not on easy mode like a filthy heretic. And of course, the loading screens in between each section, both online and offline, kinda do eat more into that time sink. So as of right now, I cannot suggest this game due to the price. The campaign was good enough, but this game was essentially released in early access. They have officially announced that more content is on the way. Specifically, I am interested in their new PvE modes and especially their horde elements, which they absolutely nailed really well here with their display throughout the campaign. I just hope that they do add more types of enemies and elites to offer more instead of pure repetitive content.